later.
Can you tell us anything more about what he said, though, when you told him about the death threats? Because I think that's telling.
I don't want to, at this time, directly repeat his words, but I can tell you in nature, I literally was shocked that he was so unkind and accusatory.
In her first sit-down interview with CNN since she announced that she was leaving Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene shines new light on her heated private conversation with Donald Trump after she confronted him about the death threats that she was receiving from his supporters because of him. And in her own words, she was shocked. She was shocked. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play from this sit-down interview with CNN, and as we go through and unpack it, I will remind you of how I feel about Marjorie Taylor Greene and how I'd advise the rest of you feel as well.
In addition to what we just heard there, President Trump posted yesterday that you are, quote, and I'm quoting him now, not America first or MAGA, and your, quote, new views are those of a very dumb person. That's the President of the United States speaking about you. What's your response to these latest attacks?
Well, actually, Wolf, I feel very sorry for President Trump. I genuinely do. It has to be a hard place for someone that is constantly so hateful and puts so much vitriol, name-calling, and really tells lies about people in order to try to get his way or win some kind of fight. And I think that's exactly what's wrong in America today. That's what's wrong in this toxic political environment that has ripped our country apart. And I personally think that that's poor leadership from a president. It's a very bad demeanor, and Americans are very tired of it. And unfortunately, I also am concerned because I don't think the president's team nor the speaker have told the president about the legislation that I've introduced, that actually much of it directly, literally aligns with the agenda that he campaigned on, I campaigned on in 2024. Many of my bills are actually his executive orders in legislative form. And if the speaker would pass my bills, if the President Trump were to sign them into law, guess what? His executive orders, which make him literally a temporary president, his executive orders, which are my bills, would become law that would become permanent. And so I think it's very unfortunate.
So let's stop right there. So again, great questions from Wolf Blitzer about this. This is, again, she's not, dropping F-bombs or anything else. She's keeping a calm tone of voice, but this is the most scorched earth that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been heretofore about Trump, saying that she feels sorry for him, that it's not good leadership, it's poor leadership, it's just totally unhinged. And she also reveals that he doesn't really give a damn about governing the country, which is, of course, a position that those of us who have recognized Trump and have been clear-eyed about Trump understood from the very beginning. He doesn't care about governing. He cares only about aggrandizing and enriching himself and insulating himself from criminal liability. That's why he wanted the presidency in the first place. That's why he definitely wanted to get re-election, particularly after the Biden administration, was to keep his ass out of jail and to make more money for him and his family. So he doesn't care about being a permanent president or enshrining his changes into permanent law. He cares only about the next 4 years or however long he intends to remain in power, that it be reflected on him. So again, she's ultimately revealing quite a bit about his priorities from a MAGA perspective. She's basically saying, the rest of us who recognize this about Trump were right all along. Here's another clip.
Because when I hear him talk like that about you and insult you and attack you like that, I worry about your security and your family's security. And you've been getting some increasing threats, right?
Yes, and that's what I take so seriously. As a Christian, I'm not angry at the president. It's easy for me to say a prayer for him and forgive him. But the part that I have had a very hard time with is the fact that he called me a traitor. And because of his words, that brought serious threats against myself and my family. We had a pipe bomb threat on my home, a pipe bomb threat on my family construction company and staff, and had multiple pizza doxings. But the serious one was the direct death threats on my son. And I think that goes beyond anyone's arguments or disagreements or politics. All of our children and our families' safety should matter to anyone, no matter if they're mad at us or disagree with us. I think that should be something we respect.
And when you told President Trump about this, can you tell us a little bit more about what his reaction was to these threats?
Yeah, it was shocking to me. I sent those death threats directly to him in a text message and informed him of what his name calling and words were doing, the direct result. And it was a direct assassination threat on my son. And he was extremely, I won't repeat what he said, but it was extremely unkind. No sympathy, no care.
I'm just wondering.
So let's stop right there for just a second. Again, it's just staggering. We're getting more and more information about what Donald Trump said to Marjorie Taylor Greene in response to this. It really is truly staggering because this is the person who used to be his biggest fundraiser, his biggest supporter, his biggest champion, conspiracy theorist, anti-Semite, somebody who never saw a Trump claim, a Trump lie, that she didn't take at face value and do everything in her power to signal boost and regurgitate. And simply because she has criticized him from a position, I would argue, constructively in many respects, she certainly didn't flip and become a Democrat. She didn't say she's going to flip parties and stay in power and help screw him over. She didn't do any of that. But simply because there was some dissent, he discarded her. And not just discarded her, he actively created actively dangerous circumstances for her, not just for her, but for her loved ones, okay? For her employees, for her coworkers, for her children. And again, I can't imagine. I'm not a parent. I only have nieces and nephews, but the person that you basically treated like a cult leader, and she did, is the one who's effectively saying, I don't care if you and your family, your son, your children are in danger. How, if she has any conscience whatsoever, and the jury's still out, still trying to figure out how I feel about Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll get to that at the end. She should feel a sense of shame and guilt and embarrassment because she helped this guy get into a position where he's in a position to put her son's life in danger. And again, for Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has said and done and espoused some of the most shocking things in politics, for her to say she was shocked by how Trump responded, that says something. Let's continue.
Obviously, it would be good to hear what he said, but do you feel like you were duped? I mean, as you reflect on this moment and these attacks against you, you have been such a staunch supporter and ally of President Trump. Do you feel like you were duped by him?
I feel, maybe I don't know if I would use the word duped. I think it's unfortunate for the entire country. And I think the message is, and many people are saying it directly to me, if the president, because I stood with rape victims, women that were raped at 14 and 16, victims of Jeffrey Epstein and others, they claim that there are other men. Because I chose to stand with them, that's what caused the president that I fought so hard for to get elected. That's what caused him to call me a traitor. And I think what many people are saying to me is, if he would do this to you, he would do that to any of us. And that, I think, is a terrible message to be sent to the country. And many of the people that stood, goodness, hours in line for a MAGA rally that I went to, by the way, and went to many of those rallies and spoke at on behalf of him. I think that's a terrible message to send. I think our country has been in a state of crisis for many years now. And what I personally want to see happen is all the vitriol and toxic politics to be put away, and leaders to actually work for the American people.
That might have been the best question that the CNN anchors asked of Marjorie Taylor Greene during this entire interview, because people have asked her and should continue to ask her about her culpability in signal boosting and regurgitating the toxicity of American politics. She was one of the foremost players of that. But what about, okay, were you duped now that this has been turned on you? The very thing that the rest of us have known about Trump for some time. Were you deceived? Did you just go along with it because you felt like it couldn't be used against you? And she says she wasn't duped, which I think is a tacit admission. She knew that there was the side of Trump, but again, she was just willing to, out of a lack of principle, out of a sense of vindictiveness, like so many other Republicans, to just go along with it so long as it wasn't directed at her. And since then, there has been this sense of empathy among people like her going, okay, well, if he's willing to throw his biggest supporter, one of his biggest fundraisers, one of his most well-known and rhetorically effective acolytes under the bus like this because of some relatively minor disagreements, what is he prepared to do to everybody else? And the answer is he's prepared to do whatever the hell he wants because Trump has no loyalty to any creed, any person. I don't think he'd throw his own family under the bus. He is a malignant narcissist and a sociopath who cares nothing for the people who so fervently support him. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has now come to accept that. It is simply a fact that we, you and I, were right about Trump from the very beginning, and they were objectively wrong. Here's another clip.
How much do you think President Trump is responsible for the toxic politics? I know you've addressed your own role to my colleague Dana Bash, but what about Trump himself?
Oh, absolutely. He's a leader in it. And so were others on the other side. I mean, we can look, there was a weaponized Biden DOJ against the president and his family, and state AGs that went after his family. All of that is extremely toxic and dangerous in itself. I fully am totally against any type of weaponized justice system for political purposes. However, it's the language that just continues it. And it's extremely unhealthy. It sets a bad example, but that's what has been created on I call it the political industrial complex. It's the two parties that are pitted against each other, and the president, he's a leader of that on the Republican side.
It's hard to believe.
He is. Now, again, this is where you know she's not a liberal. She's not a progressive. She's not turning into a Democrat because she still just signal boosted so many of the bullshit, debunked conspiracy theories and lies about a weaponized justice system under Joe Biden. Like, just not true. Even as Donald Trump is, to an unprecedented, extraordinary degree, openly weaponizing the Justice Department against his political opponents. So even Marjorie Taylor Greene felt the need to both sides it. But I do appreciate the fact that she's like, yeah, Trump's the leader. It's his fault. He has a leadership role. With great power comes great responsibility. He's the leader, not just of the party, but he's also the most powerful and influential person on earth. So he has the most responsibility. These things are important. And to hear it from Marjorie Taylor Greene as opposed to another liberal, perhaps some conservatives out there might find it more persuasive. Because again, what Marjorie Taylor Greene is effectively admitting in so many words with each passing day, that you and I were right about Trump from the very beginning, and she was wrong. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.